I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook baby.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what we're gonna do. We're doing our crit fighter draft.
Yeah.
So
So,
we're recording. You snuck that on me.
oh yeah, because it sounded like when you were talking, it sounded like you thought we were recording. So I was like, oh shit.
Oh, no. Now I'm ready.
Okay.
So now I'll put on my podcaster voice.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to do
And we're back.
that annoying thing that you know
Just being there.
YouTubers do, where it's like, oh, like hold on, let's do that again, and then like, like okay, take two, everyone. Hi. Maybe that was cool 10 years ago, but since so many have done that, I'm just like, why are you doing that? It's obnoxious. I guess it's supposed to make you look endearing.
Yeah.
Look, sometimes perfect me makes the occasional mistake.
All right. That's enough of that.
Yeah.
Okay. We're back. Episode 113.
13. Yeah.
113. We're doing a crit fighter draft. We're talking about this. I'm very excited. One, what are we defining terms? Are we defining what a crit fighter is, or is that just gonna like come out during the draft? Because I have no idea who you're picking.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we should define like
All right.
the terms.
So how I'm thinking of it is like, it's not just, I don't want people to think it's like, oh, it's just like right-wing people owning the libs. Like there will probably be some of that, but it's not. It's not just that. It's like, so the crits are a term we kind of use for woke because that's played out. Crits. I'm not saying I necessarily coined it. I read it in the Anarchist Handbook from kind of a different term. It was in an essay. I don't remember who, but it's kind of like, obviously it comes from like critical theory. This, what you would call intersectionality, hyper identitarianism, postmodern, like all that, the Frankfurt School. Like, so it is amorphous. It's not, there isn't an exact definition, but the area. It's people who definitely a characteristic, kind of an immutable characteristic of the crits is like they want to silence free speech. They're hyper focused on identity, oppressor oppressed, kind of cultural Marxism, all that bullshit. So
and everything is a social construct.
Yes, so. Right. Like there's no objectivity. Think of like Foucault, who, it's so funny. I tweeted this recently. It's like, yes, I think I tweeted this during the early-ish stages of the Palestine protests, where it's like, yeah, a lot of them are wrong and stupid, but like I thought Foucault was like a genius at that age, and now I think he's like the dumbest motherfucker to ever live. Like he's just wrong about pretty much everything.
Right.
And not that he doesn't have like some good ideas, like some things that like
some valid critiques of like power structures and
exactly.
Like that, yeah.
But in the end, it comes down to all the same BS. I mean, he famously was a very, very privileged person and didn't like wanted to hide that. Like his dad was one of the doctors, I think, for that has been credited with kind of wiping out cholera. Like a very like he went to the best schools and had the best like psychiatrist. And anyway, so that kind of area. So these are the fighters. These are people who fight back against this. Obviously, and I want to be clear also, this probably doesn't have to be said. Like we obviously don't mean like physically fighting anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that could be
ideas
construed by like the least generous people out there be like, oh, you're calling violence. Like, no, we're not. This is obviously about fighting ideas with opinion pieces and tweets and words and free speech and all that stuff, right? Yeah, so these are the people that we think are the best crit fighters who are fighting back against this craziness. And even as I'm saying this, I'm actually thinking of more. I'm going to write down right here. So go ahead.
I was saying, did you have like did you maybe like organize them in a certain way, or were you just sort of like just general like thinkers, creators, intellectuals?
All of it. Yeah. So of course, obviously, a lot of like journalists, podcasters, writers, that sort of thing. And they do kind of run the gamut of style, and even, I mean, I don't know, some, and again, like all these people, it's not like they're all on like the front line together, like locked in arms. Like they have different ideas. They don't even agree with each other.
Right.
You know, some are a lot more abrasive, some are much more intellectual and philosophical. And I want to get into that. And honestly, like, I don't know how many rounds you want to go, but we could do another one of these because I started with only a few. And then when I really like sat down and thought about it and like, okay, think about now I probably like 15 that we're not going to do that many, but like, and also I don't know who you're going to draft, and we have a lot of the same, we're fans of a lot of the same people. So
so I whittled it down to 7, and they're all living. They're all currently working. I don't know about you, but like maybe it could be fun. Is like, you know, maybe if we could revive, if we can bring back from the dead some of our favorite verses. Man, like I'm a big fan of Christopher Hitchens, and so I'm like, man, I wish we had him right now going against all this shit.
You're right. Like I did think, because I did it. I don't think I have anyone on here who's passed away. I don't think so, but we could definitely do. Wait, do you have any? Are all yours living?
Yeah. The ones I have now, they're all living, but there were a few.
Why don't we do a separate one? Where it's passed away? So let's, and also some of them are like co-hosts of like a podcast or something. So I'm just gonna count that as one. Yeah. You could do the same. Yeah. All right. So do you want to go first, or do you want to take the next two? Because it's technically a snake, even though it's the two of us. So it's 1, 2, 1. So which side do you want to be on?
1. All
right. Take it. Who's your one? This is the 1-1.
Oh. Eric Weinstein.
Okay. Did not expect you to pick him, but tell me why.
Yeah, so he is a mathematician, physicist, and economist. He's pretty progressive. You know, he was a Bernie Sanders supporter, Bernie bro. But what I love about him is he's willing to call out both sides on their shit. And he's been on podcasts, so he's very friendly with people on the left and the right and the middle and all over the place. But he's also like, all of you guys are going way too nuts, and so he's willing to call out people on their shit. I think, but the main reason why I like him so much is he has been, you know, even before a lot of this big, you know, culture war stuff and identitarian crap, you know, popped up in recent years. He's been sounding the alarm for like, we need to stop ostracizing the flawed genius. So he's been doing this from like the perspective, you know, like in the sciences. So, you know, he went to MIT, he went to some big schools, and he's got decades of stories of like, there was a scientist, there was a researcher who had a great idea, but they were called crazy. And then 10 years later, their ideas became accepted. But part of the reason why they were, you know, labeled as crackpots is because maybe they held some views that were unsavory at the time, and so it was easy to kind of dismiss them. But then it wasn't until years or decades later that we went, oh no, they were actually onto something, and we were too quick to dismiss them. Obviously, that is sort of, you know, he's kind of bring this up in the form of the culture wars of like, yeah, there are creative people, you know, like some of the most brilliant, talented, creative people are nuts. They have crazy ideas and views, but we can't cancel them because they don't fit easily into a box. So I think he's kind of for me at the vanguard. He also talks a lot about, you know, art and music and creativity and stuff as well. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I would not think like a mathematician economist would really be a crit fighter, but that's true. I agree. It's funny. He's not even the Weinstein I know best. Like, Brett, I know he's kind of, apparently he said some, I you know what, I need to listen to it first. Right. Let's just say his Rogan episode is making the rounds, and not for ways that I think are, but then again, it's like a lot of Rogan's such a lightning rod that a lot of the you know, what's said there is distorted, taken out of context. And people are not very generous to Brett either, who could be on this list. I'm not going to pick him. I don't know if he's on your list. I'm going to go with, okay, so that's the 1-1. I'm going to write this down. My number 1 pick, which is tough, I'm actually going to go with Greg Lukianoff.
Good.
So, hold on. 2. Actually, I'm going to go Joe and then Ben. Yeah, I'm going to go Greg Lukianoff. Here's why. Because while we said at the beginning of this episode, not, you know, this is obviously not about literally fighting people who have this political persuasion. that we are in no way calling for violence. A way you can fight back instead of just writing op-eds or tweeting is in the courts. It is why we are a civilization. We're supposed to fight in the courts. It's not just always it's not always about debate and the marketplace of ideas. Like, no, sometimes you do have to be combative, and in a civilization, you're supposed to do that in the court system. And that's what Greg Lukianoff spearheads with FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, which used to stand for the Foundation for something in education.
Right.
That has changed, because it used to be much more about school censorship. The speech codes, infamously of like the 80s and 90s, I believe. Both, and it was always about anti-censorship for students and professors.
Yep.
I think earlier that was more protective of students, and in the last decade or so has been more protective of professors against their students. Now it's basically just the new ACLU, which they should, because the ACLU has completely floundered and become a shell of its former self.
Yeah.
In terms of substance, they lost a ton of credibility, and FIRE's kind of taken up that mantle, and so they represent clients, not just students, not just professors, but just people expressing their First Amendment rights. They're apolitical in terms of like a side, like Republican or Democrat. They stick to their values, which is very, it's obviously very important. And I just have a lot of respect for them. Yep. They're filling a void that, like I've said many times on the show, I used to, the ACLU used to be my dream job. That was, I wanted to work for them, and now I wouldn't take the job if they offered it to me. But FIRE is a different, FIRE is exactly, and also to put it, Ira Glasser, I'm not putting him on here. He was one of the famous kind of, what's the term I'm looking for? Like one of the famous like bulldogs of the ACLU back when they were more legitimate. Yeah, everyone references this case, the Skokie, Illinois case, but he's a Jewish lawyer who defended the neo-Nazis based on free speech grounds. The Mighty Ira is a great, I believe it's HBO documentary about him, and so I say all of that, and guess what? He's a I don't know, a chairperson or on the board or whatever it is of FIRE. So that's where he is now, and that just shows you the values of FIRE. Right. Where I mean, if that doesn't tell you where they stand compared, juxtaposed to the ACLU, that right there, if you know anything about Ira Glasser, he is kind of what the ACLU used to stand for, and what people who really stand up for free speech should stand for. So Greg Lukianoff, I believe, is the founder of FIRE, or he's let me get an exact title for him. He's the president of FIRE. Yeah. And he previously served as FIRE's first director of legal and public advocacy to his point president. So I believe he's the highest up person there. If I'm wrong about that, I'll amend it. But he's definitely like the face of it too. Yes. He's also a co-author of The Calling of the American Mind. That's right. With is it Jonathan Haidt? Yeah, yep. Jonathan Haidt. I know less about him. Jonathan Haidt, I do have him on here. I'm not going to draft him, so I just don't know as much about him. But he's a co-author of that book too. Yeah, he's definitely in that sort of IDW-esque sort of heterodox space. Yeah, and FIRE. Another thing that's cool about FIRE is that they have a lot of great members on their board. And what's cool is that it kind of spans the political spectrum, from conservative to progressive to like libertarian, moderate, centrist. So which I like. I think that and so it's like they're all bonded together, not through policy necessarily, but through values. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, rights and expression. Okay. So that's I do two picks. Ooh, okay. This is tough, but I think I'm gonna go with. So I picked Lukianoff because he's, the not ideologically a pugilist in terms of the political persuasion, but for values and rights. That's why I went Lukianoff. And why it's my first overall pick. My second pick, I am going to go with Joe Rogan. basically based off of reach. I mean, he's the biggest podcast in the world.
Yes.
I think he can basically have on whoever he wants.
Yep.
And the people who don't want to go on a show are people who are just anathema to him, like Peter Hotez, who's been on his show but like won't go back on or something like it's people who are afraid to be challenged by him. And then I think he has a reach of like 10 million, if not more. Rogan is, I don't know what you would call him politically. He calls himself like an old school liberal. He definitely, I've never seen him really deviate from like free speech and fighting back against the crits, fighting the like ideological, the purity tests, censorship, obviously all of that. I mean, he himself was censored on YouTube many times. He's been his name dragged through the mud on the biggest media networks like CNN, lied about, had the color of his skin changed in a different filter to make him look sicker than anything. Like he has a target on his back for good reason, because he's a threat to the mainstream media, to the establishment. And while he does give his opinions a lot on these issues, he also has on people who are experts for the issues, and he's very open-minded. I think that's also a big part of being a crit fighter, is being open to new ideas. And if you disagree with someone, talking it out, citing, so he has the ability to cite sources on the spot. Pretty much, he's been wrong too on the spot, and he changes his opinion, and he changes. So I mean, that's all very very credible. So for that, I mean, he could have been my one, but so I'm going to take Rogan at 2 for those reasons.
Damn, he was on my list.
Yeah.
I actually did see him at the Comedy Store, so that was a cool little like bucket list.
Wait, recently?
No, this is 2018, early 2019, I think.
You saw him like perform?
Yeah.
There? Oh, cool. Was he good?
Yeah, he was good, and he came on late too. He came on like around midnight.
Yeah.
The Comedy Store, I don't know if they still do it, but they had this thing where they would show like they would have like, I don't know, 10, 15 comics go up, and they're doing like 20-minute bits.
Yeah.
And they've had some pretty big ones. I know like I've seen Theo Vaughn twice there.
Oh, nice.
And a few others, but he was the headliner. And I remember just being there for like 3 hours, and like it was very hit or miss. Some really good comedians, but a lot of mediocre, not very good. And he was the headliner, and he came on at like midnight. And I'm tired and have had a few drinks, so I'm like, come on. And then he came on, and it was just like so much fucking energy.
Really?
I mean, he's not my favorite comedian. He's funny, he's talented.
Yeah.
But he had. But it was just like, you're sitting through like an art and like Garfunkel concert, and then all of a sudden Slayer comes up on stage, and you're just like, fuck yeah, like so. So I'll give him credit for being.
I like his comic. I think he's a very good comic.
Yeah.
He's not my favorite either. I don't think he's his favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite's definitely Louis C.K.
Mm.
But what I love about Rogan too is that he's not like pigeonholed. Like he's a comic.
Yeah.
He's a jiu-jitsu black belt and color commentator and like expert on mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
He's obviously now, I mean, just his podcast was a total accident.
Yeah.
And now he's, I don't know if an expert, but very, very well versed in all different like ancient philosophies and history and drugs and all sorts of stuff that's just really enviable, like to just be able to speak to all these cool people. He's kind of living the life.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's very good at all those things too.
Exactly.
Joe Rogan's he's a good boy.
Who's your second overall pick?
Elon Musk.
Okay.
Yeah, he I mean, because there's definitely like a stereotype for billionaire CEO business types where it's like they're just greedy and they're just like they just care about the bottom dollar, the bottom line. So it's great seeing someone with so much fuck you money and actually like putting it to use of like, and like he literally told advertisers, go fuck yourself. So
Elon, I don't have him on here, but I did think about it, and like he is a really good pick. I'm gonna let you finish with
he's definitely erratic. He's definitely said and done some things that I don't fully agree with. But he's a nutcase, and it's one of those things where it's like, kind of like when I was talking about with Eric Weinstein, it's like the most brilliant, innovative people are often crazy and they'll do some stupid shit that you don't like once in a while. It's like, so for me, it's like, yeah, I'm willing to take the bad with the good. And it's great that, he can afford to take so many crazy risks. And I hope that paves the way for other, big CEOs to be like, yeah, cool. We don't have to bend down to the mob. In fact, we'll actually do better by, not, caving into the mob. So
yeah. So Elon is another kind of Rogan like pick to me. I'm not comparing them like personality wise, even though they're friends. I mean, in terms of like scope, he bought Twitter.
Yeah.
Basically to own the libs.
Yeah.
Which, so whether Twitter's gone better or worse from a technical functioning standpoint, I don't know. I think maybe it's gotten a little worse, maybe a little, like, it's hard to tell. It is definitely annoying. I got to authenticate myself multiple times a week to like the rock pictures. Do you get that?
No.
What? You don't get that?
No, not at all.
Oh, do you use Twitter on your computer a lot or on your phone?
On my computer mostly.
Yeah, that's so weird. I do it like 3-4 times a week.
Oh, weird.
That's really weird. It'll be like, how many rocks are in this picture? I need to pick like them. Anyway, but from a political standpoint, and I was just listening to a podcast episode about this, like Twitter has changed from a place where the grittiest people go to attack people to get them to lose, to get them fired, to pillory them, to mudsling. And that power has really been stripped.
Yeah.
Like, it was where a lot of corporations, a lot of companies, like, even though it's even as big as Twitter feels sometimes, especially if you're, as they say, the character of the week or the character of the day, it's a tiny percentage of people, but corporations, companies, news outlets, they would treat it, like the public square, and would take a lot of those baseless accusations to heart. People would lose jobs, but simply based on allegations, accusations, whatever it is. And a lot of that has changed. One, and they're both because of Elon. One is people just left. A lot of those shitty people left, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
like, I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, let's all sit along and the best ideas will win no matter. Like, yes, I do think the best ideas do come out on top, but if there are bad faith actors who are just going to attack you and defame people, and are incredulous, I don't care if they leave. Like, I don't need that. It doesn't mean I follow if you go through my followers, I follow people with hammer and sickles and roses in their bios, American flags, crosses, Israeli flags, Palestine flags, every type of, I follow all types of people. But I don't need like some shitty journalist from WAPO to be on there. I don't care if they go to Blue Sky or Mastodon or whatever it is. And him existing and buying it did that. That's one of it. And two, he has let on a lot of other people who shouldn't have been kicked off to begin with.
Right.
He's just the community notes is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Community notes is one of the best. That didn't exist before Elon, right?
No.
That was like, I love it so much. And it's so great. And it doesn't always go one way. Like, there'll be right-wing people community noted, but it just is so funny to see like the ridiculous claims or whatever, like, and then like below it'll be like, actually this happened on this date or something. And and that's not a good example, but so that's why, I mean, I love Twitter. We met on Twitter. This podcast exists because of Twitter. And I don't love that he's I hope he gives up on X. Apparently, even at like recent interviews and stuff, he was calling it Twitter. I don't get. I don't.
That's
like
one of
that.
those dumb where I'm like, dude, you're just coming off as eccentric now. You don't.
But he's nuts. As far as billionaires go, I've been said I don't know if billionaires should exist. I have issues with him on labor, all of that together, right? I think he's doing cool shit. He's not just manipulating money. He's not just raping and pillaging companies and corporate raiders, hedge fund, like guys who just don't add any value to the world. He's trying to do some cool. I don't know exactly what he'll accomplish in the long term, but he's definitely making changes to electric vehicles, to the the public forum for the internet. Like that alone, I think is pretty great. And yeah, I think he's a solid. I can't believe you picked Matt Weinstein over Elon Musk.
I know, yeah. I think Eric Weinstein. I think
Sorry.
speaks.
Oh, Eric Weinstein.
Yeah. He hits a lot of the right notes for me, I think.
Okay.
But Elon Musk also is he's a great troll too.
He's a great troll. Yeah, he says some wild shit. He does some but yeah, overall, I think he's a net benefit. I don't think a lot of people would agree with that.
I agree with that, and he's also a futurist because like even before he became a lightning rod for controversy in the culture wars. Before that, like the public perception of him was much more positive, but
liberals loved him.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Liberals loved him.
He was a Silicon Valley tech entrepreneur, liberal guy for protecting the environment. Like,
like he made electric cars. Like I don't know if affordable is the right term, but definitely
more accessible and more
accessible.
Cool.
Yeah, cooler, accessible to a lot more people. And electric cars, I feel like before Tesla were just like freak things that no one could afford and no one understood. And yeah, he was a darling of the environmental left. Yeah.
But one thing, even then, when he was much more, I guess, much more of a savory character, he still had a reputation for like, he would make a risky business move and be like, and people would be like, what are you doing with Tesla? Like, why are you going public now? Or why are you taking the company in this direction? And then like the stock would go down and the people, see, this may be it. And then 6 months later, it would just skyrocket. So it's like, he's a futurist. I think he's very much like a big brain sort of like chess player. It's like, I'm willing to take the small risk. It'll seem big to people who don't know, but in 6 months it's going to pay off huge.
Yeah.
That's why I'm more willing to excuse him with his dumb eccentricities and be like, maybe this is him being erratic, maybe this is him going a little nuts, or maybe
at least he's interesting.
Exactly, he's interesting.
He doesn't seem like evil.
Right.
Like Bill Gates seems evil.
Yes.
Like Elon Musk, I don't know if everything's going to be good. Like I don't fully understand Starlink.
Yeah.
I don't think we should start implanting chips in people's brains.
Yeah.
Like Neuralink, I don't really get it. I don't know how serious it is, but like it doesn't seem nefarious like other billionaires are.
Yeah. So that's why I'm much more willing to excuse his nutty behavior, because it's like maybe this will end up paying off. Maybe this is something that's much more calculated.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's some really good trolling, like when he founded that very brief flamethrower company. The
oh my god, that's right. Yes. Whatever happened with that?
It was meant to be a joke. It was like, we're only going to produce 5,000 of them or something like that, or 10,000, and then we're going to shut down. And
okay. So, I do remember that. That was like very like 2016, 2017, right? Yeah. All right. You get another pick.
Okay. I'm gonna pick.
I think you do, right? I've never seen a snake draft with two people.
Well, we're just blazing trails.
I guess it's 2 and 2.
I'm gonna pick Douglas Murray.
Oh, really? He was my next pick. Wow. I swear. I even have his Wikipedia pick up right now. That's funny. All right, that's cool. Go for it.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Christopher Hitchens, and because he was just such a vicious intellectual pugilist, and so I think Douglas Murray is kind of like the heir to that throne. Did you see him in the that debate with Matt Taibbi? The two of them going up against that chick from the New York Times. What's that debate called?
I think I saw that.
And Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that was Douglas Murray. I thought that was
Douglas Murray and Matt Taibbi were on one side, and it was.
Oh, Matt Taibbi and Schellenberger were in front of Congress.
Yeah, that's what it was. But God, I can't remember the name of the debate. But anyway, so he's vicious. Like, I feel bad for anybody who has to debate him, and like he's pretty respectful. Like when you go in as a good faith debater, he'll respond in kind. But Malcolm Gladwell was just really condescending and kept calling. So Douglas Murray does not like to be called Doug, so he introduces himself as Douglas, and Malcolm kept calling him Doug. And so So he just kept
Yeah.
calling him Malk throughout the rest, and but he's just vicious, and but also wickedly intelligent.
Mhm.
He's a conservative, but like I think British conservatism is much more moderate compared to U.S. conservatism.
Yeah, I think it depends. You get like not you. A lot of times Americans like to just like graft their own issues onto like European politics
Yeah,
and other like all of their own flavors.
yeah,
I think like the status quo conservative there would be more moderate, especially now.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
conservatives gotten more right, but in some ways, like they can be some of these all these European countries have like far right parties that
Oh
like
yeah,
like literal Nazis
yeah,
and like
yeah.
spread and stuff there. So yes, yeah, I agree with you. I
But
think he would definitely be a Republican here though.
yeah, yeah, but like when you look at his political views, because he's hard to pin down, at least by American standards. Because I mean, he's gay, so he's pro-gay
Mhm.
marriage, and he's pro, at least in the UK, like their welfare state. Um, and he's been very critical of gun laws. I'm sorry, he's been very critical of the American rights views on guns.
He's for their like social safety nets over there.
Or at least he's much more in favor of it than I think
Interesting.
you would expect
Yeah.
a conservative to be.
Mhm.
But but he's even though he's a conservative, I think he calls himself a cultural Christian because he is an atheist. But I like that about him, where he's just kind of all over the place. He's kind of hard to pigeonhole.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and yeah, so that's why I picked him.
Nice pick.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do this now. I don't know if it. I swear, I've seen so many drafts, but I've never seen two.
Mm.
So I don't know if it makes sense to do 2 and 2.
Right.
I guess so. It'd be 1, 1, 2. I guess you get another one now. So go ahead.
Didn't I just do 2 though? Because I did Elon.
Oh,
and
you did
Douglas.
do 2? You're
Yeah.
right. Okay, so it's me.
Yeah.
All right, now I do 2. Okay. I'm gonna go with Barry Weiss.
Good.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Barry Weiss because as much as I say that journalists are the worst people in the world, I also love good journalism. Like I forget sometimes how much I really enjoy legitimate good journalism because it feels like there's so little of that.
Yeah.
And Barry Weiss does that. Like her podcast is not. It's not one of those podcasts where I watch any episode no matter what. There are only a handful of those that I listen to, or there are only a handful of podcasts that like basically just listen to the newest episode every single time. And I follow probably 15, 20 podcasts, and maybe 5 of those, it's like, okay, they have a new episode, I'm listening to it. Hers is not with that. Like hers is, and this is honestly with Barry Weiss, hers, but when I do listen to an episode, which is pretty frequently, they're usually like phenomenal, just like detailed and informative and interesting. And she asks great questions. She's personable and not condescending. And like I'm just surprised. I don't know why I'm still surprised. But I'm like, wow, I really enjoyed that, listening from like start to finish to this episode. She's kind of famously quit the New York Times.
Yeah.
Over the crits.
Yep.
Over progressive craziness. Like Douglas Murray, she's also gay, married to a woman, and doesn't fit in any doesn't fit into any sort of category easily. I definitely don't think she would consider herself a conservative. I definitely think she would be much more firmly like a firmly old school liberal, probably still voting Democrat in a lot of stuff. I don't know, maybe not. So she's not one of those people who just like went from establishment liberal Democrat to like, oh, now I'm like a far right influencer or something like that. Because you see a lot of that. But just someone who, like, off the top of my head, I mean, the Oberlin episode was fantastic. She's done great episodes on transgender things, current events. I think her episode on like Kyle Rittenhouse, I believe, was an amazing one. Just really informative stuff. And and also the Free Press, which is her Substack. It used to be called Common Sense. That's the Free Press. They're one of the few Substacks that I regularly check out. Yeah. And I just think she's and a founder of Austin University. Is that it? There's the University of Austin, which is very impressive that they started a university from scratch. And I think a lot of these people are connected to that, but I think she spearheaded it as one of the founding members of it. And I think it's really cool. Like, I don't know, I don't have kids yet. By the time I have kids, and they're looking at colleges, I hope that they, that has established respected university now in a really cool city. It's not like they went and built some compound in the middle of nowhere. Like, they put it in Austin, Texas. Yeah. A lot of interesting people there, businesses. A lot of these people moved to Austin. So I think that's, I'm just really impressed with her. And I definitely think that she, I share a lot of her episodes. And I think that, she should be in anyone's regular rotation. If you're a fan of these sorts of people, you're a fan of us, you should definitely check out Honestly with Barry Weiss, her podcast, and the Free Press for written journalism.
I agree. And I have a quick little aside here. So I have this quote. I often write down and save my favorite quotes, either from like a book that I'm reading or an article or something. We're just like really good prose or something. We're like, oh, that's just such a cool turn of phrase. And so I have this one. It's from Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
I don't remember which book it was, but I want to quote tweet some shitty like LA Times journalists whenever they get all self-righteous on Twitter. And I want to use this quote. He had a vision of himself as a reporter, trench-coated, saber-tongued, a fearless champion of truth and justice. He saw himself working late at night, lonely and feverish at a desk in the empty newsroom, pounding out stories that would rock the city at dawn. It's like just like this, we're like a journalist who thinks of himself like a superhero.
Yeah, it's like it reminds me of when who's the Taylor Lorenz?
Oh yeah,
she knocked on a door, and I don't want to give it away, but she knocked on a Chaya Rachik's door or something, and walked in. Yeah, and people were like, "That's a shoe leather journalism." It's like she knocked on a door, like, or like, give her a goddamn break. She should go and bet herself with like some separatist group in Bosnia. Like she went to Brooklyn, where she probably lives, and knocked on a door or something. They told her to fuck off. Like, shoe leather journalism.
I'll give her credit. I mean, like, she stepped out much farther than most journalists.
Yes, but I think she thought of herself as like, I'm a journalist today. I earned my journalist, like,
just pounding the city beat. Just like...
yeah.
Oh man.
So it's my pick again. I'm gonna go with, this is tough. I mean, honestly, they're all tough. A lot of these people, by the way, could be completely switched around. You know what? I'm gonna go with 4. I'm gonna go with Coleman Hughes.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Coleman.
He's great. I love that guy.
Yeah, Coleman and I, from the same county in New Jersey, represent, and he's
unfortunate. That's the one flaw of him. I think
he's probably the youngest person on this on my list. Maybe I'd have to check. He's definitely the young. I mean, Coleman's.
You don't have Greta Thunberg on.
You're not a Greta Thunberg. She's, oh my gosh, she's something else. It's like, well, you ever seen that meme, that, the Domino's meme, where it's like, where it's like an autistic Swedish girl gives a speech, and then it's like the entire European grid fails, and it's like. An autistic Swedish girl gives a speech at the UN, and it's like the entire the entire European electrical grid fails. Anyway, so yeah, Coleman Hughes.
Yeah,
he's many things. Also, I think, which is very cool. Like Rogan, he was a Juilliard train. Like, he went to Juilliard, I think, for a semester or a year, but that was his choice. It's not like he failed out or got kicked out. He's I think a trombonist or trumpist.
Definitely a horn player.
Yeah, definitely a horn player. Also a rapper, but he's really an intellectual. So smart and just completely, like, such an anomaly. For instance, I know his background a lot because he talks about it. He's from Montclair, New Jersey, which is a very mixed place, very desirable suburb of New York City. I think Stephen Colbert lives there. They have like the Montclair. There are good Ethiopian restaurants and a music and a movie festival, and it's like that perfect like 35 minutes outside of New York City suburb, but still like itself has a lot to do, which is tough to find.
Right.
He's from there, mixed people. It was annoying because they're always good at like every sport in high school because they were big, diverse schools. With fucking line, huge school with white kids, black kids, Latinos, all types. And his mom was like a card-carrying Marxist Puerto Rican. His dad was black. He was in a very like it's very where we're from. I'm from the same area. Like definitely probably 2/3 liberal to conservative. Went to Columbia of all places. University, probably one of the most just grossly liberal schools in the country, especially an Ivy League school. Like we're not talking about some like small liberal arts school out in Oregon, right? This is an Ivy League school, and he pushed back a bunch of that craziness. Like he didn't keep it to himself. He wrote in the school paper. He put himself out there. He argued against a lot of the insanity. I think Barry Weiss also went to Columbia and did some of this too. Got in fights with professors and stuff. I think that's more like Israel-Palestine shit.
Yeah.
But Coleman, I mean, it's not just like, oh, he hit it, and then years later, when he had a platform, he talked about like, no, he was very open about it. He says he lost dates and girlfriends and stuff because of it. And now is just a really interesting thinker. He's not just some, I don't want to say token, that's the right word, but like he's not like a conservative right-wing Trump black young kid not young kid, he's probably in his mid to late 20s, but where that's like, oh, it's a niche. Like, no, he criticizes Trump, he criticizes conservative stuff, but I think he considers himself a black conservative. I'm not exactly sure. He might push back against that, but definitely heterodox. He was one of the first people to write something anti-Black Lives Matter during the Great Awakening. I think I'd heard about him before that, but that really, I think, erupted him back onto the scene, at least with me, and kind of back into the zeitgeist. Like, hey, there are people who are against this shit. And again, he gets more credence in this area because he is young and he's a black man, right? And I find is like Barry Weiss, he gives really interesting interviews. He's well versed in a lot of different areas. He's open to debate. He's tried to debate Ibram X. Kendi many times. Kendi won't do it.
Piece of shit. Like he's scared of a kid. Like,
he's kind of like the opposite Kendi, to be honest. Like,
he is. Yeah.
He's like the exact opposite of a Kendi.
So write a book, How to Be Anti-Kendi.
He just came out with a book.
Oh yeah.
Like
about color blindness or something. Or...
I think like literally this week. I put it on my audio book list because I don't know if I'm going to buy the book, listen to audio book. I have a lot, but with more like nonfiction stuff, I'm okay doing audio books. But anyway, I think he's really smart and interesting. I don't know why his podcast on Spotify hasn't updated since December. Maybe that's because he was working on the book. But I heard him on. He did an episode of The Fifth Column with Camille Foster. There's just the two of them. There's a Blacks Only podcast episode because the other two co-hosts are white, but they did one. Camille's also very interesting. But they just kind of talked about the usual race essentialism. Camille is a lot more. I don't know if you're going to pick him, so I don't talk too much about him. But Camille's like total he's like anti-racist. Like Camille's like anti-race. And I don't think Coleman goes that far. But they share a lot of views and they disagree about a lot. But he's definitely worth the listen and the read. And I can't really recommend him enough. He's my fourth pick for Crit Fighter.
And it's funny because like so many of his views on race are just sort of and I don't want to undermine, his thoughts on this, but like so many of his thoughts on race are just sort of like, that was the liberal view 20 years ago. Like that was like colorblindness and
like wherever he grew up in Montclair, it was so diverse and he never felt racism. He never felt like special for his race. He never felt at a disadvantage for his race. And he had friends who were Asian and white and black and like it was, and his mom. I mean, if anyone, like that's what's so impressive to me is that his parents weren't, Thomas Sowell and Zora Neale Hurston. His parents his mom was a Marxist. Like if anyone was going to be influenced by that, it would be him who would be putting the cultural Marxism first, and it just wasn't.
I remember when I first heard about him, like I thought he was much older than he was, and so I was taken aback when he was like He was still in. I think he might have still been an undergrad. He was like 21 or 22 when he first kind of exploded on the scene.
Yeah, I want to see exactly how old he is. Oh my God, he was born in 1996. 27. Yeah, he's 27.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But
he went to Newark. Yeah, he went to Newark Academy. Like again, so he didn't even go to Montclair High School. He went to Newark Academy, which is exactly what it's Newark. So first of all, Newark Academy is not in Newark. It's not really that close to Newark. It's a private school, an expensive private school. So it's not even like he went to the public school.
Yeah. But so he's a good one. I think I'm gonna steal him from you. So my next pick is Coleman Hughes. So the reason why, no, I'm kidding. I'm gonna pick Quentin Tarantino.
Really? Oh my God! Did not. Interesting. Go for it.
Yes. So I don't even know what his own specific political views are. Oh, like other than like I can think of two instances where he's kind of hinted at what his politics are. When he was on Joe Rogan, he said, "I was accused of being right wing, but I'm not. I'm not right wing." So there's that. But
I'm not finish. That's just so absurd to me.
I know, yeah. And then I do remember this is before George Floyd. It's probably like 2012, 2013. But there was a case of like a police brutality thing. I don't remember who the victim was. They were black though, and I remember him criticizing police about that and getting a lot of flack from the right. So other than that, I don't know what his actual political views are, and I also don't care. Which is like I'm glad that he's just like pure artistry. He's just like, I'm a director, I'm a film guy. I'm not here to preach ideology or politics. And so we brought up the case this particular instance several times before, but when he was promoting Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and a journalist asked him, how come Margot Robbie's character, she played Sharon Tate in the film, how come she had so few lines in the movie? And she was obviously going for a sort of like, how come the woman didn't get enough screen time? And Tarantino just shut her down immediately, and he said, I reject the premise of your question. And I love that. I love when an artist is like, I'm not taking the bait.
So can I get my thoughts on why this is a good pick? So first of all, the whole like Tarantino right wing, like he made a movie about hunting Nazis and he kills Hitler. He made a movie about a black cowboy where he whips enslavers. Like he shoots many slave owners, burns down a plantation. Like it's like a black revenge movie. He makes his own spin on a black exploitation movie with like a powerful, what was it, like the strong female lead,
Pam Grier.
Pam Grier. He makes movies that like blend different cultures, a lot of Japanese culture with the Kill Bills, lots of westerns. It's so bizarre to me that because he says the N-word in Pulp Fiction, that it's like he like that character is supposed to be a dick. It's a weird scene now that doesn't age well.
Right.
But I don't find and also in his book we've talked about, he says why, I don't say he was raised by black people, but his mom dated a lot of black guys who were kind of like father figures to him. And he would be the only little red-haired white kid in a lot of situations. And I don't know, that's a different argument, but that doesn't make him right wing.
Yeah, and he loves black culture.
Yes, he does.
He's gotten criticized from like Spike Lee for like his movies and the use of the N-word and stuff. But it's like, dude, he genuinely loves black. Yeah, he even said in that book that we talked about, which was he's like, in the 60s and 70s, I wasn't listening to rock, I was listening to R&B, I was listening to soul. And so like he and like so many of like the black characters in his movies are really cool, kick-ass characters. So it's like
they're very cool. Yeah, Spike Lee always has real realistic representations of white people too in his movies, which I like. I like a lot of Spike Lee movies, but Spike Lee can be a total pain in the ass. This is a cool pick because it's like a pure, like he's fighting the crits by being himself.
Yeah.
And because I think what Tarantino would say, I'm just gonna speculate that he would use the same argument that you like brought up, like Coleman uses. It's like, wait, this used to be totally fine and cool and actually like fighting the power, like creating violent movies that have like killing Hitler, killing slave owners. Like that used to be totally not only acceptable but like empowering.
Yeah.
Having Kill Bill, like the strong female lead is a woman who uses physical prowess and a samurai sword, like a katana, and speaks different languages and can fight any man, and like that is awesome shit. And and I think that him not caving is and being such a big name, being, you know, he's an LA kid. He's you know, one of the few directors I think now still that people like just go see the Tarantino movie, like they still call it that, right?
Yeah.
Like even big directors, like I don't think anyone's saying they're going to go see the what's his name, I'm blanking, Dune, Villeneuve.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna go, like, no one's saying I'm going to see the Villeneuve movie. They're saying I'm going to see Dune.
Yeah.
Like even though it's the same thing, like I'm going to see any of Villeneuve's movies, but it's not. I'm going to go see the Villeneuve movie.
Tarantino's like a genre in and of himself.
I think people would say that about Tarantino, about Nolan. Like I'm going to see the newest Nolan movie, but there aren't many.
Right.
And he hasn't caved. He makes exactly what he wants to make. And yeah, that's a really cool pick. I didn't even think of that. But that's a very you pick too, because it's very much like he's fighting the crits with art.
Right. And also just like, you know, because there's a lot of right wing, you know, like comedians and in films, and you know, like the Daily Wire, the Daily Wire is getting into film production, and it's very heavy handed. And so I just like the idea of,
like, did we predict that, or was that already going on? We were like, there's just going to become right-wing movies.
Yeah. And it becomes just as heavy-handed as a lot of Hollywood stuff. So I love the fact that there's something very pure about Tarantino, which is like, hey, look, you know, I was getting shit from the right when I was criticizing, you know, police brutality, and I'm getting shit from the left because of my portrayal of black people. I don't care. I'm gonna keep doing it. So I love just like, no, just keep being pure. Don't fall for politics or ideology. Just stick right. You just follow your muse, and that's it. So yeah,
that's sweet. I'm always down to shoehorn Tarantino into an episode.
Yeah. There's something dangerous about it. Like it's like he's the closest I can think of, like a filmmaker as a rock star. Or like, ooh, there's something dangerous about this guy, you know. So
yeah, that's a good way to put it too. I don't know if there's anyone left like that. Okay.
So I guess I got another one.
Yeah, you get two.
Right. I'm gonna pick Matt Taibbi.
Yeah, that's good. But he was on my list too.
Yeah. You know, for reasons very similar to why you picked Barry Weiss, where it's like he's like one of the few sort of like old guard journalists that are still active. And he's also, you know, he's very principled. You know, he criticized the right for a good chunk of his career. But now he's getting it from the left, and sort of, but like his views haven't changed, his principles haven't changed. So I'm glad that, you know, and also like he's very eloquent, and he's very he doesn't fight harder than is necessary. Like, you know, whenever he's debated anyone, he's always been very like polite and civil. So, you know, he's a good sane figure in these chaotic times. So
yeah, I think Taibbi is even more, like, honestly, more probably a shoe leather than Barry Weiss would even be. Like, he's very much in the nitty gritty.
Yeah,
I know he's done a lot of work over in like in Russia and the Middle East. I think the Middle East. He's very principled, and obviously is a crit fighter in terms of fighting back against some of the biggest crits, who are the social media companies. Pre Elon, really Elon taking over Twitter is what allowed the Twitter files to come out, and Taibbi kind of spearheading that. I think that's a great pick. And he could be, I think he could be even higher too on either of our lists. Like I said, these guys aren't, these guys and gals aren't. You know, it's tough. Like, I could switch a lot of them around, but that's a good pick. All right, my turn.
Yeah,
you did two, right?
Yep.
This is tough. This is really getting tough. I'm gonna go with. All right, I'm gonna go with a kind of opposite, somewhat not opposite, but just a total different direction here. I'm gonna go with Libs of TikTok.
Okay, interesting.
Because unlike these other ones that are a lot more a lot more either journalistic or principled value. Those aren't the right term. I'm not like knocking libs of TikTok, but they're a lot more about debate and ideas and values. Libs of TikTok is purely just, I mean, it's about just owning the libs, and
It's calling them out on their shit.
it's calling them out on our shit, but it's also, at least it started and got real popular. All it does is putting up a mirror to it, or giving it a projector, whatever you want to call it, and just showing a lot of other people what is going on. And I feel like it really started in classrooms. It's like these crazy teachers that if and lives with TikTok. So I'm picking the account. It's Chaya, I think how you pronounce her name, Rachik. Now she's open now. She was doxxed. She's a
Taylor Lorenz was the one.
Yeah, she in her 30s, 20s, 30s.
I think 30s, I think.
30s. I think she's a real estate agent or something from Brooklyn. So the account, I think, surpassed over 1 million, and now probably many more, by just doing what it says, just showing the libs on TikTok to people who aren't on TikTok, which is TikTok's a much, much younger like user base, and just saying like, hey, look at this shit. And while I've said it many times, I don't think the comedy of like point and laugh at the blue-haired freak, like I don't think that's comedy. And when comedians do that, but she's not being a comedian, this is informative. Just say, hey, this is a second grade teacher in the Chicago public school, or this is a 8th grade teacher in this private school in New York City, or whatever it is, or in Georgia or Arizona, whatever. And she became very famous, and I think it's exactly like, this is kind of a fighting libs where they are type thing, like exposing the shit, because it's not just these people. She didn't surreptitiously record their group meetings somewhere. She didn't try and do what's his name, James O'Keefe,
right
Project Veritas type things. Like, their videos are public. Like this is public. They are feel so like bolstered by their communities and the social structures that have been created for them, that they can say this wild shit about what they're doing to students, like lack of parental rights, openly admitting to trying to brainwash students, turning them into soldiers for whatever bullshit cause they have. And all she's doing is curating it. Like, basically she's a curator, and that's important too. Like, we need journalism like Coleman Hughes and Barry Weiss, and we also need people to just expose the rest of us. Unfortunately, expose us to this craziness that is not, I mean, this was a saying for so long. It's like, no, they'll just stay at Reed College.
Right.
They'll just stay at Vassar. Like, they'll just stay at Oberlin. It's like, no, it's not. It's in your classroom now. Yeah. It's in your boardroom. It's in your HR department. And she's, I think, very responsible for that. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, she absolutely helped, shine a spotlight on this craziness, where it's like, what? Like, there are teachers who are trying to, teach 9-year-olds about how to have safe, non-binary anal sex. Like, no, like, get that shit out of schools. No, like, so yeah, no, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right. I got another pick here. How many picks are we doing? 7?
I think so. What are we at right now?
I'm picking my 6th now.
You're picking the 6th. Yeah, I guess we'll do 7. Yeah.
You want to do 7? Okay. Oh, this is tough. I'm gonna go with. Sorry. I think I know who you're gonna pick.
Okay.
All right. I'll go with Schellenberger.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
I'll go Michael Schellenberger. I loved his book. It was the first when Spotify added audiobooks to premium. It was the first one I listened to. I'm talking about San Francisco here. I know he has some others.
Yep.
Environmental ones. So Schellenberger, his background was he was like a liberal environmental activist type person. I think either from or moved to Berkeley, California, kind of in that scene. has been very vocal about the craziness of I mean, his book San Francisco is about how progressives ruin cities. That's the subtitle. And he's not just doing the point and look at the misery of these progressive cities and how crazy they are. He comes up with solutions. He talks to all different types of people, activists, homeless people, doctors, jail wardens, like prison wardens, like all different types of people, what works, what doesn't work.
Yep.
He has big plans that he would like. He ran for governor. Of course, he didn't win. But governor of California. But I think his book bucks, it came out, I think 2021, really bucks the trend of a lot of what was going on. It's like, no, this is all, not only is this destructive to cities, this is destructive to the people it pretends to help. It pretends to help. It can be reversed, like there are, and it can be done humanely. There need to be consequences for act. Like there's tons of he debunks a lot of the whole like, oh well, the Portuguese model or the Netherlands models. Like, no, those are not what you think they are. They can be good, but that's not what's going on here. It's kind of the worst of both worlds. It's like we legalize everything, but then there are no repercussions. That's not what goes on in the Netherlands and in Portugal and in a lot of cities that have what are supposed to be more liberal drug laws. You're not, and he, I don't know, like, I'm not going to give the whole point of the book, but it's like, no, like he gives hope also because this can change. And he breaks it down in a really interesting way. And again, he comes from that side. He's not some, he's not like just a Republican from the suburbs who has contempt for the cities and wants to see them fail. Like, no, he wants these cities to succeed. That's like me too. Like I don't want, like, I always said the line that Tennessee Williams said is America has 3 cities: New York, San Francisco, and New Orleans. Everywhere else is Cleveland. I don't believe that, because I think actually I think there are a lot of really cool small cities in this country. And
Los Angeles is one of them. It's pretty small.
I think Los Angeles is cool. It's not small, but there are a lot of great cities. But but the point is, like, San Francisco would not be in that list anymore, and New York. I mean, New York's New York, but it's like 20 times bigger than San Francisco. But I want to see them succeed. I want them to be clean and safe and thriving. Like I'm not one of these people who is in red America and it's like, oh yeah, let's see them crash and burn because they're a bunch of libs. Like, no, I don't want that at all. And I think he's the same way. So I don't know. I definitely recommend his books. I don't know if he has a podcast. I'm assuming he does, because kind of everyone does. But he's a really interesting read. He's a great podcast guest. I know he's been on Rogan at least once, maybe twice. And I know he was with Taibbi on the Twitter Files investigation.
And I really like his thoughts on the environment too, where he's like, there are some problems, but we can solve them. It's not like humanity's going to go extinct in 12 years, like AOC was saying. It's like,
he's a big nuclear advocate, and he's kind of sold me on that. I actually have a book about his other book, Apocalypse Never, and then I have another book about nuclear power on my list too.
Same thing, like 15 years ago he would have been like a darling of the Democratic.
It's like totally normal, like totally normal Democrat, and
he's educated, he cares about the environment, he's pro LGBT, like but but
it's because he's against like shitting on the sidewalk and the Fisherman's Wharf or whatever it is.
Exactly. But that's the thing, it's like being 70% left wing. That's not enough. It's like if you're unless you're 110% progressive on every single issue, then you're basically alt right. So he's great. He's a good boy.
So then it's your last 2 picks. I don't know if we did this right, and then my last pick.
Ooh, last 2 picks.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we might have done that wrong, and we're done, but that's okay.
I think it would be 1 because we're doing 7. Oh yeah,
we're doing 7. You have 5.
You're right. Okay, I'm gonna go for a big one. Jordan Peterson.
Oh, okay.
I just because my room's never been cleaner since I started listening to him. So I wanted, there are plenty of obvious things that I like about him. He says some crazy stuff sometimes, but I want to shine a light on some of the smaller things about him that I admire. He's really good at like shrugging off certain like there are things about him that are easy to make fun of, but he kind of leans into them. Like he's got that Kermit the Frog voice.
Yeah.
So, but like he for a while when they were trying to use that against him, then he was like posting memes about it, and it's like, oh, cool, like see, like you're the weapon is powerless against me. There's one where like the
Red Skull or
the Red Skull, yeah, that was ridiculous. But
yeah,
like,
but he wasn't he leaning into it?
Yeah, he was. But yeah, so he's really good at sort of like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna use that weapon, I'm gonna turn it into something funny. So I think he has this quote where it's something like, any weapon that you use against your enemy will be used against you at some point. So I think he's sticking to what he's preaching there. And same thing there, where it's like, I mean, he's probably center right, and now that he's on the Daily Wire, he's probably more conservative. But like probably like 20 years ago, he probably would have been like he did say that he was a member of the like Liberal Party in Canada, but he
was
left.
He really?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that surprises me.
And he did volunteer work for like a local indigenous tribe. Like there's not a whole lot of obvious. There's not a whole lot to him where it's like, oh yeah, he's obviously a conservative. It's like, yeah, I don't know. There's plenty of stuff, and he's been very complimentary of like Canada's healthcare system.
Yeah.
So I don't, there's not a he's not as right wing as like you say Candace Owens or something, but either way, yeah, he's really good at like articulating things where it's like, I didn't know that, but I feel like I like he kind of brings a lot of things to the surface. We're like, oh yeah, there's like this sort of intrinsic human wisdom that we all kind of know, but like he kind of shines a spotlight on it. Does a good job of like articulating it. So yeah, I think he's a good thinker, and he's and also he's just a brave dude, like just standing up to the stupid kids at University of Toronto.
Yeah. Yeah, he's also been attacked for opposing like the mandatory pronouncing stuff that's going on. Canada does not have the free speech that we have, and it seems like a nightmare.
Fuck Canada, man.
Yeah. Yeah, really. Nothing good comes from Canada.
Yeah, not one thing.
I'm just kidding. We have good guests on. We have a bunch of our guests. We have a lot of guests from Canada.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I think they're the ones who are they're the ones who are suffering. And when I say fuck Canada, like I don't mean like the country. I mean like the politics.
Trudeau might be one of my least favorite politicians, and I think Canada's. I follow random. I like this YouTuber JJ McCullough. He's good. He's also like a gay conservative there, but again, conservative there. Not all of them. Like he might even be a Democrat here. Not that they don't far right, they do, but he does a lot of like I learned more about Canadian politics just from watching his videos. And then I follow some stuff, and I think the Conservatives are set to win like the biggest majority they've ever had there. But you never know. All right. So yeah, finish up, do your last pick. I'm gonna do my last pick, and then I always want to run through the honorable mentions. Yeah. Not that we have to talk about them, but because I want to post this when we post the episode, and I want to, give shout outs to people that we didn't get to. Yeah. I'll pick the other Weinstein brother. I'll pick Brett Weinstein. Brett, okay. I've always enjoyed listening to him. He's a pretty far left guy. But because he's not woke, then it's like he might as and then it's funny, like when the whole what was the college that the whole he went to no the one he taught it. Evergreen State College. Evergreen State, yeah, not Reed. It's another small. Yeah, but he got associated with the right because Tucker Carlson was the only like mainstream journalist who would have him on a show, but it was just sort of like, all right, cool, I get lumped in with the right, but they're the ones who are friendly towards me, so I don't know what else. Yeah. But I love his bravery, and also like the Dark Horse podcast. Do you know what a dark horse means? Like what the meaning of a dark horse is? Like someone who's not expected to win. Yeah. So I like that. That's kind of like a big part of his, I think, kind of philosophy. It is similar to his brother Eric, where it's sort of like sometimes the solution will come from like the least expected person. And he was right on a fair number of things during COVID. That it came from a lab.
and kind of sounding the alarm bells with the vaccine. But he took so much shit, and he was demonetized, and he was shadow banned, and all that. And he's handled it pretty gracefully, as far as I can tell.
Mhm.
So I like that. I think he's a good role model for that. So yeah, Brett Weinstein.
All right. Yeah, I don't know as much about Brett. I think I listened to one of the big Rogan episodes 2-3 years ago, where he was very much trying to make he was very censored.
Yeah.
Not just in COVID stuff, but in terms of political ideas. He wanted to basically create God forbid you create a unity party. And
That's right. Yeah.
Like,
they got kicked off of Twitter. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely insane. And he basically just wanted to take like the good of the right and the good of the left and have them come together and form, a political party that people could get behind and isn't about, just the worst common denominator of all of us. And of course that's why I don't mind about people losing their jobs in the media and about people who left Twitter. Like, I don't mind that, because that's, that they're not, they're just shutting down other people. They're shutting down ideas. And I have no tolerance for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know too much about him outside of those kind of big ideas. That he was very COVID and vaccine skeptic.
Yep.
And the more political ideas.
Yep.
I'm kind of stuck on this last one because there's a lot. That's why I really want to do the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with because I don't know what direction I want to go in. I'm going to go with, give me one more sec. I'm going to go with the Bar Pod, Blocked and Reported.
Oh, yeah, good.
So that's co-hosts Katie Herzog and Jesse Single.
Yep.
What's so funny is that like another person I was between, like they don't even like each other. Like but they think they both serve similar functions in fighting the crits in different ways. Bar Pod also is one of these, like, makes me love journalism. They do deep dives into I think they market themselves as like internet bullshit. They definitely had a more gender ideology bent for a while, and probably still do, and that's just because that's what they knew the most about. Katie worked for The Stranger, a very, very, very progressive gender queer publication in Seattle, and was famously, got a lot of shit and had wanted posters up around Seattle with her face on them because she wrote stuff about like detransitioners, I think. Don't quote me on that. Something, if that wasn't sticking to the orthodoxy. And Jesse also did a lot of detransition stuff, trans issues, but they just do all types of interesting deep dives into all things from internet communities to things that happen very much in real life. The latest episode, Jesse actually isn't on because he's, I think, writing a book. They had Susie Weiss on, who's Barry Weiss's not daughter, it's Barry Weiss's sister. That was really interesting about what I love. I'll get to that. But what I love about Blocked and Report is, and I wish more podcasts did this, is they return to old things. It's like, oh, remember that story from 2 years ago? Well, here's what happened with that. Remember that podcast episode that we did last year? Well, here's an update on that. And I really appreciate that because it keeps things like people, it's like, oh, it makes me feel good. It's like, oh, this is the outcome of that really shitty situation, but I'm glad it came out this way. And they did one on like the Red House in Portland, where there was exactly what you would think, like anarchy, craziness, about a Black Indigenous family being evicted. And what I will say is, go listen to that episode till the very end. And there's such a great twist in it in the last 15 minutes. And it's just like to a T, like chef's kiss. Wonderful, wonderful irony in that episode. But I just really appreciate them for doing all types of great, interesting work on just things that are intriguing. Like people like a writer at a Philadelphia public broadcasting who does comedy on the side and got canceled because someone saw him, and he's a Arab Muslim, and he's of course being attacked by white people even though he's doing jokes about Muslims and all like the usual shit. And I just really all types of interesting work, stuff on furries, stuff on pedophiles, stuff on detransitioners, trans stuff. Like it's kind of like journalism on journalism too, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And I just really like them. And again, they're one of my pods that I probably listen to every episode, because I believe they're a once a week pod.
Right.
So they're kind of like, oh, I like that, where it's like, oh, I listen to them on Mondays, because they pretty much always come out with the episode on Monday. I think they might have premium too, but I'm sorry, I don't pay for theirs. I think I'm too cheap, but I do love them and I promote them and I think they're great, and you should listen to Blocked and Reported.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, that wraps up the draft.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone you just want to run through? You don't have to give details about them, but who were on your list?
Yeah, I want to mention the grievance studies hoax people. So that's James Lindsay, Peter Boghossian, and Helen Pleckrose.
Very cool. Yeah, Peter Boghossian.
Yeah.
James Lindsay, I think he's kind of losing the plot a little. I think he's getting a little too. I honestly saw this a little with Jordan Peterson. I hope he does better. I know you like him a lot. I don't know enough about. I like him. But some of these guys, I think they have a lot going on. I know Jordan Peterson has health issues. I don't think James Lindsay does, but James Lindsay is a little too. Let's just say I didn't follow him, and he's a little too. It's a little too much.
Yeah, he's definitely going in some. He's gone in some directions in recent years that I'm not entirely comfortable with. But I admire what he, along with Boghossian and Pleckrose, did with like shining a spotlight on what's going on with academia. How I
picture James Lindsay is he's like the meme of Charlie with all the red lines connecting to everything, and his hair's all crazy. You know that meme?
Yeah.
He's kind of, and it's like, dude, you gotta at least, again, I haven't really seen him in a while. I think a good version of a better version of James Lindsay, who was on my list, was Chris Rufo. I think he's a lot like. They're very similar and even work together, but he seemed a lot more reasonable. And like I said, like Barpod does not like Chris Rufo, which is funny because I was kind of between them with who to pick. Yeah. And they criticize him. I think Chris Rufo is, I don't want to say not principled, but he's fighting fire with fire. Yeah. And it's like, well, that means we have to get people fired and canceled, like for what we believe. And I don't necessarily agree with all of that, but I also get it. It's like, you're starting at a deficit. Yeah, with what they believe, because 95% of colleges or whatever are captured by this, so you have to fight back. And I appreciate that. Like, I don't want everyone to be like that, but you need some of that too. And I've heard him, and I think he's portrayed sometimes as like a crazy person, like more of a James Lindsay, kind of losing the plot. Yeah. But he seemed very calm and collected. I heard him on a good debate with Yasha Monk. Who they agree on a lot, but just like have different approaches. Yasha is more of the, get back to classical liberalism and debate and all that. He's like, that's out the door. Like we're past that. We need to fight back more, take over school boards, take over councils. And I appreciated that a lot more, and it seemed more persuasive. So he was on here. I have Chloe Valdery, again, another total different. Like she even uses terms like anti-racist and inclusion but she does it in a much better way in terms of like, it's about love, about uplifting the civil rights movement. She's like very, very interesting, where if I don't ever I would never want to do a DEI training, even though I've done them. But if you have to, I recommend her, because it's about like bringing, like, it's not about Robin DiAngelo, struggle sessions, white fragility, oppressor. No, it's about like, the best of all of us, the better angels of our nature, let's say. And I just find her like really interesting. Also, she's from New Orleans, which I love. Very interesting upbringing. And I think she like a Coleman Hughes. I think she's very young and kind of bucks the trend. She's a young black woman from a very blue city, and she's doing stuff like this, and it's really interesting. Again, but like totally different than like a Chris Rufo, like very, very different. Yeah. But I think also fighting the crits with love, let's say. Yeah. Did you have any others you wanted?
Daryl Davis.
Oh yeah, Daryl. That's a good one. Daryl
Yeah, I love
Davis.
that guy. He's wonderful, and
I think similar to a Chloe Valdery in that respect.
oh yeah, taking a more like humanist approach to like fighting this identitarianism,
Yeah.
and finding common ground. And it just cracks me up that wokies are just like, we have to fight racism by lecturing white people who have done, even if they've done nothing wrong, they're still racist, and we need to be condescending towards them, and we need to remind them of their privilege and their bias. Whereas he's making friends with the worst of the worst,
Like
with members of
literal,
the
like actual racists.
yeah, the members of the KKK,
Yeah.
and he's doing it by becoming friends with them and being like, yeah, we have different skin colors.
So commendable.
Yeah.
Like, because I wouldn't do that. Like these
Yeah.
guys are horrible pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he goes, and like I'm saying that as a white guy.
Yeah.
And he's going as a black man is like, that's so commendable and really cool. And like Chloe Valdery, like the power of love and connection,
Yeah.
like actually can do more good. And he's doing it with real racists, like actual hood wearing racists, not, the kid who wears a sombrero on Cinco de Mayo. Like,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And he's deconverted over 200 members of the Klan over the last few decades. So
that's great.
So it's like, yeah, no, I like his approach to fighting racism much more than you got to lecture people on their privilege.
Yeah. Yeah. He's good.
Yeah. So yeah,
I have Jonathan Haidt. We kind of talked about him.
Yep.
I have the Red Scare podcast. They're one of my favorite podcasts. Again, they're one I listen to every episode. They were part of like the dirtbag left. I don't think they'd even consider themselves leftists anymore. Yeah. But just like, I don't know, they're very interesting. I have a breadth of information and like very cultural. They know all types of writers and artists and photographers and fashion and politics and religion and anime and all sorts of cool stuff. And they're, just they're kind of like, I don't know, I decided we're marketing ourselves as the internet stepbrothers. They're kind of like the internet stepsisters. Like they're kind of just like say whatever, comes to mind, and also switch their ideas. They're not Republicans, they're not Democrats. They've said who they'd vote for. They've changed. It's just it's very refreshing in terms of kind of talking like a lot of us talk.
Yeah.
I have. Oh, do you have others?
Nah.
Honorable mention. So I'll just run through them. Yeah. Bridget Fedesi, we love her.
Yep.
She could have been on. Like all these people could have been on this list, by the way. So I have Bridget Fedesi. I don't know what that. Oh, John McWhorter.
Oh yeah.
Wrote Woke Racism. He's great. He was. I had a bunch of people who were like for my 7th spot. John McWhorter is fantastic. New York Times columnist. Professor at Columbia, wrote Woke Racism, has a podcast on linguistics, super interesting guy, doesn't buy into the bullshit. With that, Glenn Lowry, I think, do they have a podcast together?
Yeah.
Glenn Lowry, another Black intellectual, just very, very interesting. I think a lot more conservative. Mm-hmm. John McWhorter, I don't think would consider himself a conservative, but Glenn
He's
Lowry
described himself as a cranky liberal Democrat.
Yeah, definitely. I have Alex Berenson, famously kicked off of Twitter, returned, sued, I think, Facebook and or Twitter. Can't remember who. He was, I think, New York Times reporter, a lot of COVID regime stuff. The COVIDians fighting those crits specifically. I have one on here. I almost put on, if I didn't pick Libs of TikTok, I would have picked the Habibi Bros.
Oh yeah, they're great.
They're just amazing. The two Arab, I think they're Arab guys. No, they're at least culturally Muslim. I don't know if they're practicing Muslims, but very, very funny, very conservative, but like not like Islamic conservative, like American, funny, like just owning people on Twitter. Ahmad Eslikin is his name, and Siraj Hashimi. I always forget. But they famously have the list, and they have a bracket every year about the people who need their phones taken away the most. And while I guess like 80 to 90% of them are crits, they also, they make like bad right wing takes also. I think the winner of this year's was the BLM Chicago chapter, Stand with Palestine, with the paraglider. It's like it's the worst tweet of the year. They're great. Thomas Sheridan Williams. He's good. Also a New Jerseyan, I believe, married a French woman, very cool. And he famously penned the Harper's letter, which for me personally was really important because I've said this many times. I was going nuts at that time. I was like, where is everyone? Where? And that was the first thing that came out was like, no, we're against all of this shit. And people like Salman Rushdie, I think Katie Herzog signed it. A lot of Barry Weiss, I believe, like a lot of people signed it, and he penned it. Like it was his idea. He got a lot of flack for it too. J.K. Rowling was on it, and I really like him. He's a very interesting guy. And yeah, that's it. That's on my list. Again, I'm sure we could find like 20 more.
Yeah.
But
I want to mention
yeah, go ahead.
One more. Jake Mackey, who's been on the show.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to bring him up real quick is because besides being a super cool guy and a good friend, he co-founded Free Black Thought. So they do a great job of shining a spotlight on a wide variety of Black related thought, I guess. So like they'll bring up like Black conservatives and Black progressives and Black, just across the political spectrum, just to show that Blacks are not a monolith. There's a wide variety of interesting thought. Yeah. And I also have an article published in that. So, but also, he's a professor and he's been on the front lines of this stuff. And I believe he is actually part of FIRE. I think he's like on.
Is it?
There? He tweeted something about like, yeah, I'm proud to be a member of, and I'm pretty sure it was FIRE.
Or was it FAIR?
Maybe it was FAIR. I get those two mixed up. They're both great, but
Melissa Chen could be on here too. I think.
Yeah.
She.
Oh yeah, no, he's a member. He's a member of FIRE.
Of FIRE, okay.
Yeah. So
Melissa Chen also.
Melissa Chen's good. Yeah, I like her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's
Deborah
it.
So I'm just thinking of people now.
I know. This is
all right. Those are honorable mentions. Yes. Yeah. Okay. It's a good episode.
Yeah, I think if let's reach out to these people and then yeah, we'll just have them join the sort of intellectual Avengers.
That's right. We all cock rings together.
I think so. We need a really good like recruiting, like get the team together montage.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love to get the team together. You son of a bitch, I'm in.
But yeah, this is fun. Next one we'll do a dead one. We'll do dead.
Yeah, we'll do dead ones next.
Yeah.
All right,
buddy.
All right, fight the crits
and stay reckless.
It's time for our Patreon.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.